In this class, we are going to learn about Indian folk music. Out of the 6 categories that we discussed in the last class, we finished learning about primitive or tribal music in the last class. In this class, we will learn about Indian folk music. So music has always been an important aspect in the lives of Indian people. India's rich cultural diversity has greatly contributed to various forms of folk music. Almost every region in India has its own folk music, be it any state, which reflects the way of life people live. From the Pepi Bhangra of Punjab to Garba of Gujarat to Bhav Geet of Karnataka to Povada and Bharud of Maharashtra, the tradition of folk music in India is great. Folk music is closely associated with farming and other such professions and has evolved to elevate the hardship and break the monotony of routine life. Now, even though folk music lost its popularity with the advent of contemporary music like pop and rap music, no traditional music or no traditional festival or celebration is complete without folk music. Even in today's times, folk music is as important as it was before. Now let's look at the history of folk music, where it came from. How did it originate? Earliest records of Indian folk music are found in the Vedic literature, which dates back to 1500 BC. Some scholars and experts even suggest that the Indian folk music could be as old as the country itself. For instance, Pandavani, which is a very popular folk music in most parts of central India, it comes from Chhattisgarh. It is believed to be as old as the Hindu epic Mahabharata. This incredible claim is backed by the fact that the subject matter of Pandavani deals with the heroics of Bhima, a prominent character from Mahabharata. Since Pandavani's subject matter has remained the same over many centuries, this age-old folk music could be as old as the Mahabharata itself. Later on, folk songs were extensively used for recreational purposes and to celebrate special events including weddings, birth of a child, many festivals that exist in India, etc. Folk songs were also used to pass on prominent information from one generation to the other. This suggests that these songs could have played a major role before the arrival of paper in India. So it was passed on through the oral traditions. Since people did not have a solid material to preserve ancient information, passing down important information in the form of songs became utmost important. Hence, folk songs were revered by Aboriginal people as it is not only provided entertainment but also imparted critical information that could be used in one's day-to-day life. Diversification of Indian music. Let us see how diversified Indian folk music is. Now, like many other aspects of India, folk music too is very diverse because of the cultural diversity in India. While the reason behind its origin and the method of usage remains more or less the same throughout India, the style in which it is sung and the way in which it is perceived differs depending upon the culture of different Indian states. Many of these folk songs were composed by great poets and writers belonging to different parts of the country. For example, the Rabindra Sangeet or Tagore songs of Bengal are a collection of songs that were originally written by eminent poet Rabindranath Tagore. Folk songs are also played Folk songs also played a crucial role in socio-religious reforms in many parts of South India. Religious leaders like Adi Shankaracharya used many such songs to spread his message throughout the country. Similarly, folk songs sung by other religious leaders gave identity to the villages they originally came from, and gradually these songs were cherished and celebrated by the people of their respective areas as their own. Also, many folk songs are associated with a dance form, which is usually performed while singing these songs. Today, almost every Indian state or every Indian region has a folk song of its own, and some of them are associated with a dance form as well. Now we are going to discuss a few folk music forms of various Indian states. Each Indian state has one or more than one folk music forms, but we will be discussing few of the prominent folk forms which have existed for long periods of time and which have um, practitioners, which have been having practitioners all throughout. One is a Bihu Geet from Assam. Now this folk music is performed in Assam during the famous Bihu festival. The music is usually accompanied by a dance performance. It is performed thrice in a year. Bihu Geet is one of the most famous folk songs of Assam and is also popular across some parts of northeastern India. The song is usually performed by young boys and girls, and it represents the joyous nature of the Assamese. Many stories are conveyed through Bihu Geet, and the themes often include nature, love, different relationships, social messages, and humorous stories. So there is a kind of message that is given through these folk music traditions, and it also creates awareness. The purpose is to create awareness. The purpose is to also entertain um, uh, the artist as well as the audience, and also to break the monotony in the routine work. Now we come to Uttarakhandi music. Uttarakhandi music is often performed during festivals and religious gatherings in the state of Uttarakhand. The songs usually convey the importance of nature, bravery of historical characters, stories, and important cultural practices of the state. Musical instruments used include masak baja, dor, thali, then damo, ranasingh, dholki, dhol, bhangora, harmonium, and the tabla. So this is Uttarakhandi music. We will listen to a small piece of Bihu Sangeet, which we just learned about.
Battery 70%. Connected to iPad and iPhone.
Okay, so this was a small clip of Bihu Sangeet. Now we will discuss about a popular folk music of Maharashtra, which is the Laoni. So Laoni is a popular folk music of Maharashtra and was originally performed to entertain the soldiers. The song is usually performed by women folk and it conveys information pertaining to society and its politics. The Launi is further divided into two types, Nirguni Launi and Shringari Launi. While Nirguni Launi is usually philosophical in nature, Shringari Launi is sensual and often deals with erotic subject matter that often induces laughter among its listeners. This particular musical form is also classified based on its listeners. If Lavani is performed in close quarters by a young girl for a set of dignitaries, it is also called Baithakichi Lavani. If it is performed in public in front of a large audience, it is called Fadachi Lavani. So for the Fadachi Lavani is very popular. There are many practitioners of Fadachi Lavani even today. There are very select few practitioners of Baithakichi Lavani. There is to be one Yamuna Bai Vaikar who used to perform Baithakichi Lavani. We will listen to a performance of Bharud, which is another folk music form from Maharashtra. We'll just quickly listen to a clip of it.
Raza Shamiana, Alkhara Javi Alkhara Javi Sagi, Asa Shanda Shamiana Ubana, Anbhi Sagi Chana Bharina, Leki Sagi Chana Bharina, Leki Sagi Chana Bharina, Anbhi Shikara Shamiana, Shikara Shamiana, Shikara Shamiana, Arashaya Shamiana. स्वराच्या साठी भेटलं यात्राच घेऊ जीव पाहला म्हणतात ना होता जीवा म्हणून वाचला माझा शिवा शिवबाच्या संगती महाराज शिवबाच्या संगती महाराज शिवबाच्या संगती महाराज शामियाने आपल्यालाच काय म्हणतो असा शाही हमारे देखो अच्छा शर्मा हमारी को हंसरी हमारी को हंसरी को लगा कहीं गिरा 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 आमचा राजा आमचा शिवाजी राजा विकाय सद्गुरूचा राजा होता बरं का राजा थोर बापू त्याची न्यारी राजा थोर बापू त्याची न्यारी सारा किल्ल्याची सावध भारी गिरा 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 गिरा
This was a small clip of Bharud. It basically, this particular Bharud spoke about the Afzal Khan's Vad, or how Afzal Khan was killed. It was narrated in this Bharud. It's quite entertaining, it depends on the performer also, but this is widely performed in Maharashtra. Now let's discuss this next music folk form of Chhattisgarh, which is the Pandavani. As mentioned earlier, Pandavani is a folk song which narrates the heroics of characters from the Mahabharata. This folk music is popular in Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, and also other states. Though this age-old musical form is largely neglected by young music lovers of today, it is still being kept alive by performers like Tijan Bai, Jhaduram Devangan, Ritu Verma, Usha Barle, and Shantibai Chelak. While tambura is largely used as an accompanying musical instrument, it is also used as a prop to explain different characters from the Mahabharata. For instance, the performer often places the tambura on their shoulder while narrating the bravery of Bhima. While doing so, the tambura represents Bhima's mace. Other musical instruments used are manjira, harmonium, dholak, and the tabla. So this is a Pandavani, which is very famous. Tijanbai is one of the most renowned performers of Pandavani. Let's listen to a performance of Pandavani. Through Pandavani, it is less of music, more of narration of a story, but it is done musically with the help of accompanying instruments. Let's listen to a clip of Pandavani.
मुझे नीचे करना है गाना कल्ले कहे कमाल है कमाल है आप तो यह सोच रहे हो कि कुरुक्षेत्र
Okay, so we just heard a small clip of Pandavani, which was performed by Tijan Bai herself, who's been one of the greatest performers of Pandavani. Now we discuss and learn about Rabindra Sangeet, which is again, initially it was recognized as the folk music in Bengal, but now it has got the recognition of one of the prime types of Indian classical music. It is a different genre of music which is also recognized by the All India Radio. So Rabindra Sangeet is also known as Tagore songs. Rabindra Sangeet is a set of folk songs written and composed by eminent poet Rabindra Tagore. Tagore wrote over more than 2000 songs during his lifetime, all of which are sung during festivals and other rituals in West Bengal. The topics dealt in these songs include modernism, humanism, structuralism, reflection, romance, introspection, psychology, nostalgia, yearning, and a lot more topics like these. Tagore's songs are well preserved in the form of a book called Gita Vita. The book is divided into 7 major parts, which is worship, seasons, love, occasion-specific songs, patriotism, lyrical plays, and other subjects. Some of the renowned singers of Rabindra Sangeet are Kamal Ahmed, Amiya Tagore, Hemant Kumar Mukhopadhyay, Shayan Chaudhary Arnop, Mohan Singh Khangura, Malati Ghoshal, K.L. Sehgal, and Kabir Suman. So Rabindra Sangeet is also a very important type of music which is now recognized by the All India Radio. It is not an Indian classical music form, but it is recognized as a separate genre by All India Radio now. Another type of folk music is Bhattiali, which was sung by the fishermen of ancient Bengal. It is said that this musical form was used by the oarsmen and fishermen of Bengal to keep themselves entertained when they didn't have to row their boats with all their might. Nirmalendu Chaudhary is one of the best exponents of this ancient musical form. Then there is Baul Sangeet, which is also called as the music of the bowls. During the 18th and the 19th century, a set of musicians from Bengal came to be known as the bowls. The music employed by them was often religious in nature, and some were influenced by the tantric set of the Karta Bhajas. These bowls traveled throughout the country in search of the eternal truth. During their extensive travel, they sang many folk songs which later on came to be known as the music of the bowls. Instruments used while singing these songs are iktara, khamak, and dotara. There is another folk music type called Bhavagite, which is widely sung in Karnataka. There is Bhavgit, which is sung in Maharashtra also. But let us discuss first, what is this Bhavgite, which is sung in Karnataka? Bhavgite is one of the most important folk music of Karnataka. Bhavgite literally means music of expression, and hence the singer's expressions constitute the most important aspect of this form of music. The subject matter of this musical form deals with nature, love, philosophy, etc. Though Bhavagite is an ancient musical form, contemporary musicians and singers have revived it by incorporating the poems written by eminent Kannada writers and poets. Present day Bhavagite draws its lyrics from the poems written by poets like Kuvempu, K.S. Narasimhaswamy, Gopal Krishna Adiga, D.R. Bendre, G.S. Shivarudrappa, N.S. Lakshminarayana Bhatta, K.S. Nisar Ahmad, and many such greats. This age-old musical form is still kept alive thanks to the performers like Raju Ananthaswamy and Mysore Ananthaswamy, Shimoga Shubbana, C. Aswath, P. Kalinga Rao, and Archana Udappa. There are many such practitioners who have kept these tradition of singing Bhavagite, which is a folk music form of Karnataka. They have kept it alive by performing it continuously. Then there is another folk music form called Natupura Padalgal. Natupura Padalgal is an ancient musical form of Tamil Nadu. Though folk music is fast disappearing in the state of Tamil Nadu due to the prominence given to Carnatic music, Natupura Padalgal remains quite important in the state. Like many folk songs of India, this folk music too was used by the Aboriginal people during the farming and harvesting season. Hence, Natupura Padalgal eventually became a way of life to many living in the state. Even today, this musical form can be heard in every nook and corner of Tamil Nadu. The importance of Natupura Padalgal was stated by eminent musician Maestro Ilayaraja. He went on to say that Natupura Padalgal was the inspiration behind his musical journey as he grew up listening to this very folk music sung to him by his mother. Another musical form, another folk music form from Tamil Nadu is Kummi Patu. This folk music form from Tamil Nadu consists of folk music, consists of folk songs, usually accompanied by a folk dance form known as Kummi or Kummiattam. It is often performed throughout Tamil Nadu during festivals and rituals. We will listen to a small piece of music, folk music from Kerala, which we didn't speak about right now, but there are more forms than what we spoke about today. There are folk music forms from Jammu and Kashmir, from Bihar, from Rajasthan, from Gujarat, and many other states which we didn't discuss right now because there are quite a bit to discuss just in one class. But we have to remember that each state in our country has one or more than one folk forms of music which are existing traditions which are still alive and are practiced by people from their region. Let us listen to a folk music form from Kerala. This was Kerala folk music. Just the instruments, but yes, there were different instruments that were used in this folk music from Kerala. There are many other forms from different states, as we discussed, like Hafiz Nagma from Jammu Kashmir, Surma, Ladi Shah, and Chakri from Jammu and Kashmir. Then there is Juri and Ainchalia and Rasiya. Juri and Ainchalia mainly from Himachal Pradesh. Rasiya is from Uttar Pradesh. Rasiya and Biraha, Kajri, Kawali from Uttar Pradesh, which are the folk music forms which still exist. Then there is Tappa, Bhangra, and Jugni, folk forms from Punjab, which are practiced. Bhangra is one of the very popular forms from Punjab, which is the most popular folk music of Punjab, in fact. It is also one of the oldest forms of music in India, and it is often accompanied by the famous Bhangra dance. All these music forms are accompanied by different instruments. Like, for example, Bhangra is usually accompanied by dhol, tumbi, or dholak, sarangi, harmonium, flute, tabla. So these are the instruments that are used for for the for presentation of Bhangra. Then there is Joda and Thadia of Uttarakhand. In Joda, there are different types of percussion instruments used, whereas in Thadia, there are instruments like dhol and thali, tabla, and harmonium. Now, Thadia is one of the most important music forms of Uttarakhand, which was performed originally in royal courts. Now, Arunachal Pradesh, there are different forms that are presented in Arunachal Pradesh, like Jajinja is performed, Baryi is performed, Nyeyoga are the forms from Arunachal Pradesh. Then from Rajasthan, there is Babuji Ki Paach, and then Mand, and then Panihari are performed widely in Rajasthan. Then there is Sumangali and Sohar in Bihar. Then from Sikkim, there are forms like Lukhangthamo and Ghatokito are the musical forms, folk forms from Sikkim. Then there is Khuba Keshai from Manipur. Then there is Domkaj and Jhumar that is performed in Jharkhand. In Gujarat, there is Garba, then there is Bhajan, Dandiya are the forms, folk forms from Gujarat. Then there is from Goa, there is Dekhni, Banwad, Fugri, Mando are performed in Goa. There is Madiga, Dappu, Ogu Katha, Suvi Patalu that are performed in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And Janapada Gite are they are performed in Kannada, the most widely. So apart from that, there are many forms. What is important to remember is that India is a very, very wide and diverse country, and which has many folk music traditions preserved and nurtured all these times, and then not necessarily documented. Some of them are documented, but over the years, it has been preserved through oral traditions. And it has been mainly to entertain the artists themselves initially, and now it is performed for the audience also, but it is many a times there is a certain message that is given through the folk music forms. Also, it is widely used for breaking the monotony in the work. Like there is harvest season. There are seasons in India, and these seasons demand certain kind of work at the end of each season, mainly related to farming. There is harvest, there is sowing, then there is growing the crop, and there is harvesting season, which is quite a strenuous job, which is quite also monotonous. To keep doing it throughout the year, to beat that monotony, to forget about the hardships and hard work that a farmer goes through, these songs are sung many times. And that has been the primary purpose of why these traditions originated, first of all, in the first place, and later on why they were preserved. These songs were so beautiful that now, even if the way the farming is done in India is changing slowly, these songs are still nurtured and still kept for nurturing and to get preserved, because they are very precious and beautifully composed. And so many of these songs, instead of just performing during the harvest season, during just playing and singing during the harvest season, they are now widely performed while presenting, while performing, just for the music performance, as they are performed as a music performance also. So this is all about folk music traditions and about folk music as an independent genre and within India. The aim of folk music is again not raga presentation, but to entertain ourselves and to give a message, a strong message through the performances and to beat the monotony in the uh, uh, work, daily routine work that the people from far-fetched areas, from villages, um, uh, they have been practicing over. So this is about folk music. In the next class, we'll learn about another type of music that is very important aspect in India.